What's up, everybody? This is your boy Ken, aka MrGentleman, your host of MrGentleman Like That podcast, and this week's sponsorship is from Newsly. Newsly is a all-in-one audio super app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and read them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time in ever on the internet, the entire web becomes listenable, all in one place. Browse articles from topic you choose, start playing, start scrolling, and start listening. You can follow any topic as you specifically as you like, from sports, science to Bitcoin, even for the Kardashians. It will find you on the latest article and you read them to you out loud. And they have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. Our podcast, MrGentleman Like That podcast, is on there as well. Yes, it is. Shout out to Newsly for that. I started using it as my default podcast app. Download and use Newsly for free from www.newsly.me or from the link in the description. Use the promo code MrGentleman that I will also put in the description and receive 1 month free premium subscription. So you already know, y'all. Download Newsly now. Check it out. Support them, y'all. This is your boy Ken, aka MrGentleman, your host of MrGentleman Like That podcast, and enjoy the show.
You are now listening to MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. Chill!
Hello, everybody. This is your boy Ken, aka MrGentleman, 1/4 of the Premier Way podcast, and your host of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. And welcome to another new episode of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. Hope all is well. And this is the last episode of 2022. And this is another bonus episode. And we got the random end of the year episode. The reason why I called this episode, the last episode, random, because this wasn't the plan. So on this episode, we basically going to discuss everything that happened in the year 2022 with me personally, with the show, and many more. And also see what to come for 2023. And y'all already know what to do. Sit back, relax, and I'll be right back.
My name is Imani, and you're now listening to MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast.
Hello, everybody. This is your boy Ken, aka MrGentleman of MrGentleman Like That podcast. And this commercial break is brought to you by MrGentleman Like That podcast, where we bring many guests telling about their stories about their brand they got going on. Also about me telling y'all my personal stories about things that are going on in my life. Also, we have many spin-off shows on MrGentleman Like That podcast called The Old School Show with myself and the Star Writing Rod, where we talk anything old school, which happen every 4th or 5th Sunday at 12 a.m. on the MrGentleman Like That podcast network. And another spin-off show called A Conversation About Music Podcast, where we talk to many artists about their music journey. And also we have a roundtable music discussion about anything music, and which should come on every first Sunday at 12 a.m. on MrGentleman Like That podcast network. And yeah, you already know, if y'all need a podcast to listen to, check out MrGentleman Like That podcast. We're on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Good Pod, and many more. Y'all can rate the show 5-star rating on Good Pod, Podchaser, and Apple Podcasts. You know, the more y'all rate, the more love the show get. Y'all can also check it out on YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube now. Ken, aka MrGentleman like that TV, and also support the website of MrGentleman like the podcast, MrGentleman like that podcast.com. This is your boy Ken, aka MrGentleman, and have a good day, night, wherever you're listening to this episode. Back to the show. Cheers!
Hi, this is Marsha, and you're listening to MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. And at this time, it's time to review the year 2022. And the question for me is, how was my 2022? If you want me to be honest, it wasn't the best year for me. I did felt like 2022 was going to be a great year for me, but things just did not go as planned. A lot had happened, from financial issues, from people, a lot of people revealing themselves, from goals not being met, from just major depression, and many more. It just wasn't a great year for me. But the good thing about 2022 was this was probably one of the best years for the podcast show, MrGentleman like the podcast. We set many goals and we conquered a lot of the goals. It was only probably 2 goals that I didn't set, but I could get that done in 2023. But like I said, thank you everybody that been joining me on this journey for MrGentleman like the podcast, and it really means a lot that y'all do with me. And from the bottom of my heart, for real, I thank y'all for continue to be with me on the journey. So now we're going to basically break down each month of the major event that have been happening in my life. So we're gonna start off with January. And if y'all know, early this year, I was dealing with COVID in 2022. So my year already started off not great. That's to how I got COVID, how far I had COVID. I had a feeling that I had COVID on December 26th, 2021. I remember one day I woke up and I had a headache, but it wasn't like a normal headache. It was a really bad headache. To the point it was really bad. And I noticed something was weird because I have a health watch on. And yeah, the health watch basically help you check your heart rate. And I noticed when I laying down, my heart rate was over 100 per minute. So I was wondering why my heart rate is beating so bad. I took an at-home test and it came back positive, but I wasn't sure if that was accurate. So I took another test and it came back positive. So I definitely had COVID. I found out that I officially had COVID on December 31st, 2021. And it was a lot. I mean, it was bad, but it wasn't as bad as I thought. I had a headache, cough every here and there. I had trouble sleeping. My anxiety was acting up heavy. I had chest pain, which I also have acid reflux, so it was hard to tell the difference. Then I had pain in my leg, and it was a journey. I'm not going to discuss everything that happened during this COVID journey because I already did a whole episode about COVID. So y'all could just go back and look at the season 5 section of MrGentleman like the podcast. And I definitely did a whole episode about COVID journey. So yeah. Also, what happened in January was MrGentleman like the podcast made 3 years in January. And that was like one of the biggest episodes at the time, when this year launched. Although the show itself started slow until the anniversary episode happened. And then it blew up, which also led to me getting my first number 1 on any chart ever. And I got my first number 1 for the Good Pod chart for Society and Culture for the first time. And I'm not going to hold you, that was a really good feeling. Because, for me, I'm a private person where
this is my show, that I built from the bottom up. I set a goal for my show, whatever goal I had, I go to conquer it. So I told myself that I want to make sure that I be number one for good pies, for society and culture. And then when it happened, I'm like, wow, it really did happen. It was like one of those feelings. It was just really shocked. And like I said, I just want to say thank you to everybody that really supported MrGentleman, like the podcast. It really means a lot. And I'm not gonna hold you. I set a lot of goals for the show, and a lot of them was really conquered. So on February, I had another goal. When February came, that I wanted to launch a merch store, and I was planning the merch store from, I believe, 2020, 2021. But I just was scared to release it. So February, I decided to release the merch store, and now you can buy MrGentleman, like the podcast merch with TeePublic. I do, try to figure out this merch thing, but if y'all want to buy merch, I could just go to the MrGentleman, like the podcast website, www.realmrgentlemanlikethepodcast.com, and y'all will see MrGentleman merch at the top of the link, and y'all can check it out. Y'all buy something. You can buy t-shirts, mugs, shirts, hoodies, pillows, and many more. Yeah, support MrGentleman at the podcast merch store. Yeah. Speaking of the website, in March, I relaunched the MrGentleman, like the podcast website. The first website that I made was through WordPress, but then I started to use another platform called Podpage, recommended by the podcast father. And I started to, play with it and experiment with it. And then I relaunched the website. And the website, man, I love the website. It really helped my show even more. So yeah, just check out www.realmrgentlemanlikethepodcast.com. That's the official website. And yeah. So April came, and I'm not sure if y'all remember this, or a long time ago, MrGentleman, like the podcast, was taken off Spotify from copyright infringement, because back in the day, I used to play music on the show, so they took my show off twice. One time in 2020, and another time early in 2021. So April, MrGentleman, like the podcast, got put back on Spotify. So, and basically, we worked something out. I spoke to them. We worked something out, and we decided to have a mutual agreement. And now the show is back on Spotify. So, thank you, Spotify, for putting the show back on Spotify. So, with that being on Spotify, MrGentleman, like the podcast, debut at number 1 on Good Pod for documentary charts. And I was really shocked because I didn't know my show was a documentary chart. I don't know if that was an error for Good Pod, but it was an honor to be number 1 on documentary. And it's crazy because we were number 1 for documentary in the Indies for 4 months. Like, nobody was knocking out MrGentleman, like the podcast, until one day we was knocked out. But it was a real cool journey, and I just want to thank y'all for listening. It really means a lot. And y'all gonna hear me say thank you a lot, cause I really mean it, y'all. Cause y'all really helped the show, and I just really thank y'all for real. And so another thing that happened in April is that I left the Premier Boy podcast, and the reason why I left, my team show, because I was stressed out. I already was dealing with a lot in my personal life. I felt like I was burned out because I was doing my show and doing the team shows, and I just, just wasn't happy. On top of that, if you heard, we came to Aaron Sands, there was a lot of backstage stuff going on, with the Rainbow Boys. I felt like teams was not coming to do the show together. We clashed a lot. We had some drama on the show, on and off the show. was drama going on. And I felt like our mindset was not together. You know, I felt like everybody's vision was different. Everybody was doing this for hobby. Everybody was doing this for serious. Everybody, you know, and stuff like that. Everybody mindset was different. So I just felt like the thing for me to do is take a step back. And plus, since I never really took an asset from the show, I felt like that was the best decision. But even by doing that, the show haven't came back, you know. So, but don't worry, the Premier Podcast is returning January 4th. Season 3 finally launching January 4th. I do not return on the show yet, but you know, some of my brothers, you know, some of my brothers. Also, what happened in April was I got my first article interview with Shout Out LA, and you know, I was nominated for this article by Angelica for a little bit everything with me. So I want to take the time to shout out to her, and you know, thank you for giving me the opportunity, and thank you to Shout Out LA for, you know, give me an interview on their platform and allow me to open up about my story. You know, one thing that happened in 2022 with MrGentleman Like the Podcast was I got a lot more realer. You know, I got realer on the show where I opened up more than I usually do. And the reason why I feel like I opened up more than I usually do this season or this year period was, I guess because I was also going through a lot this year, you know. While how I was explaining my, you know, my stories, explaining how I do the episode was how I was really feeling, you know. It was real emotions doing, you know, the episode that I was doing. So yeah, let's say this year with the show is just, well, I was more realer than usual, you know. So May, I turned 35. You know, I had my 35th birthday. I had a good, you know, I went out, you know, with some friends, went to a spot in the city. I forgot what it called, but it was right by West 23rd, right by West 23rd. Little bar I had, you know, it was a good time. Also, I went out with the family, went to one of my favorite Thai restaurants, you know, in Brooklyn and stuff like that. It was a good 35th birthday. Yeah, June, and now we're in June, and June was kind of the start of when everything really went bad. When, you know, a lot happened from June until I say September. It was just a lot of stuff happened, you know. And I just wasn't happy, you know. You know, you turn 35 and you're just not happy where you're at because your life is not where you're at. You know, you had many plans to go you had many goals set for this year, and a lot of them didn't go as planned. And it was to the point that I put myself in the highest pedestal, and everything was just, I guess it was just falling apart, you know. You know, and I don't want to dive too much into it. Get through a little personal, but let's just say that I just wasn't happy, you know. Well, it was just a lot of hard times, and with Letter to July, which during this hard time, I had to cut my shirt early due to something, you know, going on with me. So I had to cut my show early. You know, season 5 was originally 22 episodes, but it got cut down to 19 because I just wasn't able to handle something, and it was a lot. Which the next move became one of my biggest episodes this year. One of my biggest episodes on Good Pies. It was a really deep episode. It was basically explain to everybody what's going on. What's going, like why I had to stop the show for a little bit, and why I had to take a step back and stuff like that. And it was really hard to do, you know, because y'all know I love doing the show. Honestly, the show is really all I got right now. So for something that out of your control and you couldn't do the show, it really kind of messed me up even more. It was really hard to get back up on it. Also around that time, I dealt with a falling out with one of my really good friends, who also one of my co-hosts for the Old School Show. And y'all probably heard the story when I posted an episode of King to with Aaron Sands, and he asked me a question about what a friend Star Rider Ride, and why me and him had a falling out. For the first time, I'm gonna discuss this part on the show, 'cause I never discussed it on this actual show. I discussed it when I was on King Talk, and yeah. So what happened with me and Roddy was I told him something very personal, basically everything I was going through, and he pretty much told others about my personal business. And the reason why I was so mad about that situation, I don't think he really knew why I was mad, or everybody why I was really mad. The reason why I was so mad about that situation, because I felt like he betrayed my trust. I told you something very personal that you wasn't supposed to tell nobody, but you still did it anyway. And I just felt like, he didn't understand why I was upset, because, and I ain't gonna hold you, it's really hurt. It took me a long time to really forgive him for that situation. 'Cause I ain't gonna hold you, I was hurt by it. And on top of that, I was dealing with other stuff as well, which pretty much add on to why I was really angry with him. I was dealing with other stuff in my personal life that he probably didn't know, 'cause I didn't tell him. Because these days I don't tell a lot of people my personal business anymore, because it's hard to trust people. So it was really a lot. And even though, me and him passed it up, and me and him we are working getting back on good terms, it's still gonna take a time to rebuild that friendship that we once had. But, how long we are taking the stuff one day at a time now. So, yeah, so y'all will see him back on the Old School Show, January 8th. So, yeah. so that's that. So August, pretty much nothing really happened. I was just dealing with a lot of major problems in August. Just wasn't happy, so I just took a step away from doing podcasts completely. I would do support other people's shows, but I just wasn't being active on my show and stuff like that. So September came, and some stuff is handled with the personal stuff I was dealing with. So I decided to come back with a bonus episode, which was called Don't Call It Comeback Part 1 and Part 2. And I pretty much, I'm kind of in a little better place. I'm not fully back, but I was in a way better place than I once was. And yeah, I put out the episode, and then the episode pretty much grew crazy and pretty much went to the charts. Went to the top of the chart for top 100 episodes. I was like, oh wow. And yeah. And it felt good to be back again. Felt good to come back with a brand new mindset. Also, other stuff being handled now that changed my situation. So I kind of slowly in a better place, but yeah. And then season 6 premiere happened. Which was the first guest I had with my sister. Returning guest, my sister, Coach Thea Powell, back on the show, and interview her. Because the first episode, she was my very first guest, and then the interview with her on the very first episode was 5 minutes. So I felt like he deserved a real long life interview, and it was a really dope conversation, and everybody liked it because it became one of my biggest guest episodes this season. And yeah, and then I feel like once I came back, I got my first official top 100 show #1 spot for the first time on Good Pies. And I'm not gonna hold you. When I see that moment, I was completely shocked because even though it was a goal set to have the number one show for top 100 shows, I honestly didn't think it was going to happen. Because you always have a lot of amazing podcasts on that list. So to see my show hit number one for the first time for top 100 show was a real honor, and yeah, it really shocked me. I'm not gonna hold you, it really shocked me. So yeah, and plus, even though I'm not 100 about this, I believe I was the second black that hit number one for top 100 shows on the chart for Good Pods. Yeah, like I said, if I'm not right, correct me. But yeah, it was just an honor to even be up there. It was really a shocking moment, and yeah, like it was one of a really great moment. Also, I had another podcast article interview with ihaveapocket.com. Shout out to Vinny, my guy, stuff like that. So yeah, and from October, November, the show just continues to keep growing, and season 6 was like a really great season so far. Like it was just really great. The show been growing a lot more. My audience been growing. A lot more podcasters have been supporting me, and I really thank y'all for that. For take a chance, and even some podcasts who try their best not to listen to me. Even podcasts who try to shout me out, it got my name incorrect like many times. Shout out to y'all too. But not for real. But it really means a lot for everybody to really join me on the journey. Like for real. Like y'all just don't understand, man. I'm just really shocked. So, and now December, and not much happened until today. Actually, that I got another interview article with Vogue LA. So I was really shocked. I didn't see that coming, but I want to thank you, Vogue LA, for allowing me to share my story and gave me the opportunity to be on your platform. So once again, I thank y'all. Thank you, and thank you everybody for supporting MrGentleman like the podcast. So now almost time to talk about every guest that came this season, every new guest, and every returning guest that came this season. So the first guest I have for this season was definitely unique, and she came at episode 87. Originally, she was supposed to be earlier in that, but then I had COVID, so I had to push her back to after the Sunday from the anniversary. Then we got Miss Rosie, the Haitian mama, host of the Mama's Life podcast. She was episode 89. She was another episode that got pushed back due to me dealing with COVID and stuff like that. Then I got Miss Queen Janae, who was episode 91. Then I got Therese from the Kingdom Chat podcast. She was episode 94, which was a really good interview. Then I got Miss Esther Rose, who was episode 95, who was a fan favorite. Everybody loved her interview. She was a fan favorite. She was one of the fan favorites for this season. Then I got my guy Jim Urati Star, who was on episode 8 of MrGentleman Like That Podcast Presents, a conversation about music podcast. He was a really dope guest and a really dope conversation that we had about music and everything. It was a really fun. That was a really fun interview. Then I have Amanda from Dating Will Be the Death of Me. She was episode 97. She was also another of my favorite interview, for the season, for this year. So shout out to Amanda. We also got Sierra Coco from the Wet Lounge podcast and the Peaky Swear podcast, which is coming in 2023. She was episode 109, which was a dope interview. Shout out to Miss Sierra Coco. And then we got Miss J from episode 1110, which was also another of my favorite interviews for this year. So shout out to Jay. And shout out to all the new guests that came this year on the year 2022 for MrGentleman Like the Podcast. And now we got the returning guests for MrGentleman Like the Podcast that came this year. Of course, we got my bro, host of King Talk with Aaron Sands, 1/4 of the Premier Podcast. We got Aaron, King Talk Sands. He was on episode 88, 92, 98, 103, and 107. And he also will be back again for the Royal Rumble prediction episode. So look out for him. Oh, he was also on the Old School Show too, episode 15. We also got the Star Riding Rod. And he was on the Old School Show, of course. He is the host of the Old School Show, co-host of the Old School Show. Episode 11 to episode 15. And he made 2 appearances on a conversation about music podcast, episode 6 and episode 7. Then we got my bro on 1/4 of the Premier Podcast, Long Live the Chief Manny Mal. He was on episode 92 and 108. And he was also on episode 15 for the Old School Show. And then, of course, we got Miss Vanna B, who I should call her the queen of the spin-off show because she's been on every spin-off show this year. Of course, she is the co-host of Date Night Talk Podcast. Pilot episode 1 and 2 and episode 1 with Date Night Talk will be back next week. So look out for that. She was also on the Old School Show, episode 11 and episode 12. And she was also on a conversation about music podcast, episode 6. Of course, we got my sister, Miss Thea Powell, Coach Thea Powell, who was on episode 100. And my other sister, Arthur Sharice Powell, who was on episode 102. So shout out to all the guests that came to MrGentleman Like that podcast this season. It really means a lot. So now we're going to discuss the achievements for MrGentleman Like that podcast this year. And y'all already know, usually I don't like to talk about my numbers and stuff like that, but I'm not going to hold you. Like I said, this has been one of the best seasons for MrGentleman Like the Podcast, and I am really proud about the work we've done for the shows so far. Going on 4 years as the podcast host, it really means a lot, and it's feel like some people are finally seeing my hard work, and I feel like my hard work is finally being paid off. So once again, thank you everybody that been listening to MrGentleman Like the Podcast this year. So here's the achievements for MrGentleman Like the Podcast. So we got 20K downloads. 20K downloads. And honestly, we're going to aim for even more bigger than that. So, yeah. The chart that MrGentleman Like the Podcast was on this year, this is the Apple chart that we was on this year. We was on the documentary in Jamaica. We peak at number 6. We are on the Society and Culture, Jamaica. We peak at 153. We on documentary for Philippines. We peak at number 4. We are Society and Culture, Philippines. We peak at 72. And we on for documentary, Great Britain. We peak at 169. So now we're going to talk about the Good Pod charts. And we're going to start up with top 100 show. And our highest peak of the top 100 shows, we peak at number 1. That was our highest on the charts. We debuted in September of 2022. We went two times number 1 for top 100 shows. And our longest at number 1 is 4 days. Next we got Society and Culture. Our highest peak is number 1. We debuted in January. For Society and Culture, we went to number 1 11 times. We went to number 1 11 times for Society and Culture. Our longest reign at number 1 is 11 days. Now it's time for documentary. Our highest peak is number 1. We debuted in April. For documentary, normal documentary chart, we went to number 1 twice. And our longest reign at number 1, 4 months for the indies. So what am my goal for 2023 when it comes to the podcast show? My goal is to continue to make sure this show grow, continue to tell my personal stories, and have many guests to tell their stories so I could continue to inspire everybody around the world. Because you already know that what this show is about is inspiring, tell stories so we could inspire others. Because I want to help people, and I'm going to continue to help people who want to become podcasters. I want to continue to help the podcast community, support them, just like the same way they support me. I will go return the support back. Especially if you really been real with me. Even have y'all on my show, because I want to have a lot of y'all podcasters on my show. So that's one of my goals. I want to have more podcasters on. And funny thing, I already got some lined up for the second half of season 6. So yeah, I gotta look out for that. Update on my equipment. That's one of my first things that I'm going to work on is upgrade on my equipment. I had this equipment since my second year podcasting, so I think it's time to upgrade a little bit more. So that's the goal for that. Also, have a celebrity guest for my show. That's one thing that I've been trying to work on, and I did have some plans to have a celebrity guest, but it didn't fall through. And I want to have a celebrity guest because if you think about it, they're human too. They have stories as well that they want to show the whole world. So I want to do that, bring them on my show so they can tell their stories. And also, the last thing I want for my goal for the show is to be nominated and win a podcast award. It doesn't matter which award it is. I want to be nominated and win a podcast award. And also grow my numbers even more. So yeah, my personal goal is honestly, I only got 2 personal goals that I'm gonna say. Cause I'm not gonna necessarily say here. I won't go say, but I can say here. One of them is to conquer every goal that I set. So the same way I conquer my podcast goal, I want to have that same energy for my personal goals as well. So set them both. It's pretty much the same thing. Not balance them both. Also, I'm gonna say this one. Get back in the dating life. Because honestly, I ain't gonna hold you. I didn't do no type of dating at all in 2022, at all. Honestly, all of 2022, I've been focusing on getting myself together. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get back in the dating game. Yeah, of course, the right person will come. When time is right, and of course I'm still gonna do that. But it's still okay to go out there and see what's out there, and that's what I'm most likely going to aim for 2022. And also, be financially better, because that's the one thing I really want to do. That's probably one of the main things that I want to do, is be financially better. Have more sources of income, and just to be at a better place than I am right now. Be better than I am. Be better than I am. And and just be the best version of myself. And that's the best way to be. So yeah, and once again, thank y'all for tuning into this random end of the year episode of the Gentleman Like the Podcast. And I'll be right back. Hello, everybody. This is your boy Ken, aka MrGentleman, the Gentleman Like the Podcast and the Premier Boy Podcast. And this commercial is brought to you by the Premier Boy Podcast, where 4 publicly do where we talk about anything about the culture. Hosted by myself, Ken, aka MrGentleman, Mr. Aaron Sands from King Talk with Aaron Sands, the Star Riding Ride, who is also my co-host of the Old School Show, and Long Live the Chief Nolly Bell. And we talk many topics from politics, music, sex, love, relationships, and many more. And also every topic that's going on in the news right now. Many of our topics are very controversial, and the podcast show might not be for everybody because we talk about many explicit content, and yeah. So if y'all decided to check out the show, y'all be warned because y'all might need a drink or two. And yeah, because this podcast is so crazy. I'm shocked it had not got canceled yet. So if y'all looking forward to listen to the premiere of a podcast, check it out on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and many more. Each and every Wednesday at 12 a.m. You can check out the premiere of a podcast with myself, Mr. Aaron Sands, Star Riding Rod, and Long Little Chief Molly Mal. This is your boy Ken, aka MrGentleman. Have a good day and night wherever you're listening to this episode. Now back to the show. Yeah! I just want to take the time to thank everybody for tuning into the latest episode of MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. Thank you for riding with me all 2022, and hopefully y'all continue to ride with me in the year 2023. So once again, thank y'all from the bottom of my heart. And y'all already know where I'm at every Sundays, MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast, each and every Sundays at 12 p.m. We're on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and Pods, and many more. Y'all can rate the show 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, and Pod Chasers. The more y'all rate the show, the more people know about MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast. Y'all can check out myself in the Premiere Podcast with myself, Aaron Kito Sands, the Star Rider Rod, and Lola the Chief Mighty Mal. Season 1 and Season 2 is available now. Season 3, January 4th at 12 a.m. January 4th at 12 a.m. Season 3 of the Premier Boys Podcast. Also, look out for MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast Presents, the old school show, myself and the Star Rider Ride. We return with the last 4 episodes of Season 2, starting January 8th at 12 a.m. The last 4 episodes of Season 2, starting January 8th at 12 a.m. Also, MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast Presents Date Night Talk Podcast with myself and Miss Vanna B. We return with the last 4 episodes of Season 1, January 12th. The last 4 episodes of Season 1, January 12th. And don't forget, MrGentleman Lifestyle Podcast Presents a conversation about music podcast. Season 2 coming in March, and every first Thursdays at 12 a.m. Yes, a conversation about music podcast is moving into Thursdays. Every first Thursday at 12 a.m. a conversation about music podcast starting in March. And at this time, I'm about to do my new segment that I do every week called the MrGentleman Lifestyle Shoutouts, where I shout out 5 podcast shows and give them their flowers and so people can listen to them. So last week, I shouted out Small Town USA, Inspiration with T, the All Halloween Eve podcast, 69 Risky, and China In podcast. So this week, I'm going to be shouting out 5 more podcast shows. I'm going to start off with Lullaby, the Fear podcast, hosted by Ashley Leonard. And this is a true crime podcast. I'm not going to hold you. I'm not big on true crime, but when I started listening to this show and another show that I'm about to mention, it got me hooked. I love the storytelling. I love that she really does her research. And I think that's what hooked me on the show even more, because she does her research. So shout out to Miss Ashley Leonard, and check out the Lullaby, the Fear podcast. Another true crime show that I'm into is called The Crime Diners with Dana, Cindy, and Nadia. They also tell amazing stories. They always got me laughing. Like I got hooked to this show as well. I didn't know that. They just got me laughing. Like I just love this show, and shout out to them, man. They do an amazing job on The Crime Diners. So check out The Crime Diners. Dana, Cindy, and Nadia, they are doing an amazing job. Shout out to them. Also, I started listening to the new show called The Chronicle of a Virgo, hosted by Shaquita. And I literally started listening to the show recently, and it's a pretty good show. You know, she had many guests, and they discussed many topics. She talked about, you know, mental health, you know, rate your mental health. And, you know, I enjoyed the new show, and I look forward to listen to the show even more. So, shout out to Shaquita, and check out A Chronicle of a Virgo podcast. Also, you know, next podcast show I'm going to shout out is the Jabba Tier podcast. This is a wrestling content podcast, and they've been doing it for a long time. I know two of them personally. You know, shout out to Janelle from HR. Shout out to Sir Wilkins, and shout out to Mr. Black. They are doing amazing things. They're doing big things, really big things now, man. And I'm not gonna hold you. Their show inspired me to really want to do Premier Boys. And I know I just want to say to Janelle, so Wilkins, Mr. Black, keep doing y'all thing. Y'all doing an amazing thing. Y'all changing the culture, man. More people need to listen to y'all. So y'all need to start listening to the Java Tip podcast on Good Pod too. Shout out to them, man. They're doing an amazing thing. One of the best wrestling podcasts, like, for real. Shout out to them. They're doing big things. You know, and last but not least, They Will Be the Death of Me, hosted by Amanda. And, you know, this show got me hooked too. You know, she told an amazing story about basically her love, like her dating life. And it's really interesting. I'm not going to hold you. It's really interesting. You know, Amanda was on my show last season. And we had a really dope conversation. So I'm looking forward to bringing her back on my show, hopefully either this season or next season. And hopefully I'll come on her show too. I'll have to wait for the invite, Amanda. So, you know, check out They Will Be the Death of Me. That show drop every Tuesday, I think every Wednesday now. She changed things. That show drop every Wednesday now. So yeah, and you know, check out the 5 shows that I just mentioned. Live by the Fair, Crime Diners, Chronicle of a Virgo podcast, the Jabba Tip podcast, and They Will Be the Death of Me. Shout out to those 5 amazing podcast shows, and I will be giving you another one whenever we return with season 6, which would be a wow. So yeah, shout out to the 5 podcast shows. Yeah, and y'all already know, if y'all want to be a guest on MrGentleman, like that podcast, y'all can email me, YPGENT@gmail.com, and send me a bio about yourself and everything that you do. Also, or y'all can hit me up on social media, Ken_MrGentleman. I repeat, Ken, Ken_Mr. Gentleman, GENTLEMAN, and we can set something up. Add me on Good Podcast, Mr. Gentleman. Y'all already know Good Podcast to many independent podcasters. We can see what everybody listening to. We can rate each other's show, and we had the charts. And at the time for the chart review. And the chart, you know, I mean, only chart we are on right now is Good Pod. So we're gonna do the chart review for Good Pods. And at this moment, for top 100 shows, Mr. Gentleman, like that podcast is number 3 for top 100 shows. Also, for society and culture, Mr. Gentleman, like that podcast is number 1. Second day at being number 1, we just got back to number 1. So, once again, thank y'all for getting us back to number 1 for society and culture. And for top 100 episodes, we are number 3 for normal and number 13 for Andy for the bonus episode, random Christmas episode. Also, we are number 26 for normal and 42 for episode 110, Poetry and Conversation with Jay Lynn. So, once again, thank y'all for continuing to support Mr. Gentleman, like the podcast, and let help us continue to grow on the charts. And once again, I thank y'all, man. I really think it means a lot. I thank y'all. Y'all already know, check out the website, www.realmrgentlemanlikethepodcast.com, www.realmrgentlemanlikethepodcast.com. Y'all gotta check out every episode of Mr. Gentleman, like the podcast. Y'all can check out every video from Mr. Gentleman, like the podcast TV, from Mr. Gentleman Fact for the Day, and many more. Y'all can check out every guest profile that's been on our show. So far, we have 55 guests that was on Mr. Gentleman, Like That Podcast. And you can check out all the guest profile right now. Y'all can buy merch from Mr. Gentleman Like That Podcast from T Public. Also, y'all can buy me coffee also through the website. Y'all can check out every podcast interview. Also, y'all can also read the newest article that I was a part of from Vogue LA that will be added on the website as well. And many more. There's many things to do on this website. So check out the official Mr. Gentleman Like That Podcast website, www.realmrgentlemanlikethatpodcast.com. And, once again, thank y'all for tuning into the latest episode of the Gentleman Like That Podcast. Happy New Year, y'all. Okay, y'all won't be seeing me until January 8th. So when we do the old school show, myself and the Star Rider Ron. So have a good New Year. Be safe out there. Drink responsibly. And have a good day or night, whether you're listening to this episode.
This is Natalie Armstrong, and you're listening to Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast.